AI has changed the world. Has never happened before. Now it's possible to know everything.
So I've been having a conversation with a client of mine for about a year and a half now. And all of this time, we both agree that the real application of AI for mid-market B2B companies is to capture as much of the private data inside your company as possible, and then train it with an LLM and use it to solve problems and create efficiencies, and then even further try to see around corners for growth. And this is why I'm so excited for this episode. Today, I have the privilege of talking with Mehdi Tehranchi, co-founder and CEO of KnowledgeNet.ai. And he's going to walk us through this idea of organizational AI and share with us the real application of AI. So welcome to the show, Mehdi.
Thank you, Lee. This is exciting. I am really thrilled to be on your show. You captured it very well. This is exactly what we are focusing on, AI applied to internal knowledge. Therefore,
yes,
the knowledge network that is developed internally.
Okay. I love it. Okay, so KnowledgeNet.ai, that's your company. What is KnowledgeNet?
Sure. KnowledgeNet, think about KnowledgeNet as a brain that you deploy inside your company. And you can then layer this brain, train this brain using different sources. So one source obviously is email, and ability for us then to hook into SharePoint, read the files.
Yes.
Then you get into web traffic and CRM data, and then external data. But the nice thing about training an internal brain is then being able to tap into it for a specific purpose. So knowledge network allows your team to have a trained large language model that you can then create assistant AIs, create agents for automation, and freely apply them to your organization.
Yeah. Let's start with kind of what your company is doing with your clients. I know you said you started back in 21 with private equity and venture capital. Let's start there.
Sure. So it was interesting because we kind of are the same team from my previous startup, which was in image processing and handwrite recognition. So in a way, it was AI applied to imaging. But then when we exited that company, by the way, it got exited to Nuance, voice of Siri. And that became like the learning ground for us to kind of expand out into what's known as graph theory. And the graph theory is really focuses on understanding relationship. How is a conversation or an entity is related to other entities? That process allowed us to kind of focus on, well, what is the most important asset within the company? Is this knowledge? A private equity approached us and said, you know what? I like to be able to know a lot of things and capture it across the portfolio companies. I'm managing 20 companies. And at that time, there were about $6 billion under management. And I need to know what's going on inside my portfolio companies, at least in a way that they are exposed to it. And that was the genesis of KnowledgeNet. Being able to collect that information, build a knowledge map, and then from the knowledge map, start having conversations around it and capturing that knowledge. That's been our starting point. But the journey has been really interesting, and we can cover some of that as we go.
Yes. That's amazing. And it says so well, so clearly how, the unlock came for me on AI was just that. It's capturing all the data that you can and then chatting with it. Like, ChatGPT, go figure, right? It's like sometimes the simplest things, they don't make a lot of sense because it's explained in so many complex ways, but that's essentially it. And whenever I thought about it like that, I've been having this conversation with one of my long-term clients. We've been chatting back and forth about where we see AI going, it just stuck. It just made sense. It was how many ways can you capture data inside your company, and then what can you ask of it? You know, in the case of private equity, I bet they were on their toes about what can we get from the, you know, and it makes me, the first thing weirdly it makes me think of is, well, they own this portfolio of companies. So they own intrinsically all of it. So they also own the knowledge, right? So why are you not tapping into this knowledge that you own? And I think, you know, that language speaks to a private equity person.
Yeah. And let me kind of touch on that a little bit, because there is always nuances of knowledge that is important. So that case example of a private equity has 20 different portfolio companies. Mm-hmm. But each portfolio company has its own secrets. That one of them, they are in aerospace. So one of them is sending jets into the space. The other one is designing a new aircraft. One is creating a new fuel for the aircraft, and so on and so forth, right? You can imagine. What you want to do is to make sure the knowledge is not shared, individually between portcos, but the selective knowledge of your team, mm-hmm. which is operating partners, mm-hmm. executives who are working with these portfolio companies, are shared among your team.
Yes.
And then also, we ended up giving a knowledge net to each portco, allowing each portco to collect and retain this knowledge. Mm. So imagine just like a brain, it has different neural networks. Mm-hmm. That at some point they're connected to each other, but they're not necessarily shared with each other, and their privacy and security and Chinese walls around them in order to make sure. So it gets pretty complex, as you can imagine. Yeah. But it is truly what you indicated is you own it, you own the knowledge.
Yeah. It makes me think of maybe a simpler analogy would be a CRM, where you have lots of contact data in there. It's tagged different ways, and it's, you know, a simple version of a network, and you have users that log in, and certain users have permission to see certain things. But I would stress, like, the big unlock here was that it's private data that stays private. Now, what in the future you decide to do with it as IP or other means, that's a different story. But that's such a different way of thinking than how we've all been rapidly exposed to AI through ChatGPT and Claude and other modes, it being very public, taking public data and chatting with it and playing with it publicly. So to me, it just made so much sense that yes, we in our private companies and even inside public companies, inside the companies, creating these networks and access permission is the first step.
Yeah. So what we ended up creating, what we called knowledge space. And a knowledge space, like a container, and you start creating a map of knowledge inside the knowledge space, and you put security around it, and you give retention policies. How long do you want? Because if a particular company is in recruiting or human resources, there is legal regulations of how long you're going to be able to hold on to stuff. If you're in banking, there is a difference. If you're in legal, there is difference. So imagine knowledge spaces now that have their own policies, and it allows you to define different set of brains and how they're supposed to operate. It's like a DNA that you actually define around each brain. And then you, as you mentioned, you tap into the brain. That's us asking questions from the brain to apply it in a certain way. And I love to go through examples of how our customers are using it in order to get there, which is fantastic way of actually getting inside how this powerful new generation of AI capabilities are being applied.
Yes, and we're going to get there, and I want to tease it just a little bit longer because I first want you to talk about the two kind of services you offer, because I think it's necessary for people to know how your company operates with a client. Not to like sell you as a service, but more so that they can understand your role in providing this connection or the solution.
Sure. So there is definitely an area, number one, is do it yourself type of thing, where you set up the brain, you start connecting it to your email, to your CRM, to your web traffic, and there are layers of information to your finance data. And then you can have kind of like one-on-one interactions, kind of say, how am I connected to Lee? And it comes up and gives you a map and says, this is how, and how many people in my team have been connected with this individual? And then it comes up and says, well, give me a summary of what has happened between my team and that individual. And it can give you a summary of that. This is fantastic. So I call that do-it-yourself, one-on-one type of an interaction with an AI engine that is connected to the brain. The second part of that is really AI automation. This is where it gets pretty interesting, because what we are focusing on in that case is actually taking mundane tasks people go through and looking at how do we automate that as if there was a individual humanoid doing the work, not a database algorithm who looks up things and connects things and so on, but actually saying, now that you understand, could you please in the morning, every morning, run this process, set this up. So before my morning coffee, it has saved me 2 hours already.
Yes. Or more.
That's an example of how the AI algorithms and what we call AI agents automate that process.
Yep. Okay. And you mentioned you have AI Assistant and AI Engage. What are the difference between those?
Sure. So think about AI Assistant is kind of like packaging a number of workflows and making it available to you, because we are capturing a set of knowledge and we are capturing a set of ways of dealing with that knowledge and then turning that into an assistant for you.
Yeah.
A good example of that is asking product questions. So if I fed my product technical info into the brain, I should be able to ask certain technical question as a salesperson or as a designer and get answers straight, especially if that is at scale. So you have thousands and thousands of products and they're updating technical specs and so on. That's very useful. Now, consider that this is reading the material. It's not a lookup of a database of some products. It's actually reading the material. And I will give you examples of that. That's AI assistant, right? It would take us some time to understand, our AI experts, to actually sit down with the teams that like to have an AI assistant and design one package for them. And we have many of our customers running. Now, AI Engage is actually putting that into sales, because in sales, engagements are important. And AI Engage actually tries to focus on who's your audience, what's your message, how do you overcome obstacles, what are the key values that your company is providing. That's just like a DNA. Now you are putting that inside the brain and saying, now you understand what my sales team is facing, what difficulties they're facing. Now you can go back and say, I want to connect to the Northeast CEOs of aerospace companies. Boom, 2,500. Oh, I want to be able to exactly provide them my product to a set that has value in that particular, that 2,500 just became 500. Which one of them have a signal to purchase this because maybe they just did an acquisition? Boom, that's 50. What would you do if you had an assistant actually do that work for you and bring you that list of 50 that you can focus? One of our customers in construction did that, and essentially within less than a year landed a $14 million account.
That's awesome.
Through that process.
I love that.
So that's an agent versus an assistant. An assistant you're interacting with, it's a set of rules, and you're interacting with it. An agent actually learns the rules, learns what you're trying to achieve, and start automating that for you.
Working for you, yeah. Okay, so then one more layer here. We've touched on this a little bit, but before we get to some of those amazing examples of practical application, we talked about like what is the problem that we're really trying to solve here. In our pre-call, you mentioned relationship intelligence. Tell me a little bit more about retaining knowledge.
Sure. So one of the greatest relationships in sales is always relationships. Mm-hmm. And relationships have different strengths. We all know that. I am connected to you on LinkedIn, but I don't know you on LinkedIn. I'm connected to you on email, and we talk about a lot of good technical information. So you and I are really on everyday basis, maybe a lot closer.
Sure.
And can influence each other a lot more. So understanding that connection is really critical. And understanding that relationship is critical. This is what we call relationship intelligence. So part of the graph theory actually focuses on that. Two entities connected to each other, understanding how they're connected, understanding what's the strength of their connection, and putting relationship intelligence really to use for you. So you can say, I'm trying to get into this company. Who is the best connection that I can tap into? Mm-hmm. Your company brain could talk into LinkedIn, could read the LinkedIn comments, could see who is liking what comment on LinkedIn, in email, recording of meetings. What are they talking about? The ability for us to actually traverse through all that and come back with an answer that here is your best connection. And we can do it in multiple ways. Then the brain does it in multiple ways. As simple as, these two people went to the same college in the same years.
Yeah.
Or all the way to, they've had 5 meetings and they have had conversations about this particular subject. So, and then it gives you a graphical map with the lines being thicker between the people that you are better connecting with. And then using that, you can say, write me an introduction email.
Yeah.
Because now having that content with one click, it actually takes all that and turns it into, here is an introductory email that your connector can forward to your target destination.
That's huge.
Right. So,
I mean, it's so huge. I can't wait till this is can't wait till this is fully formed, because it's like for what I'm doing with my podcast, right? I'm bringing guests through and I'm making connections and building my ecosystem of partners and prospects and, all kinds of people, vendors, you name it. And my goal is to stay as connected with those people as possible. I want to add them to my newsletter. I want to engage them. I want to invite them out to dinners in a local setting. I want to have virtual events. I want to do all the things that you should do to continue to build deep relationships with people. And if I were to map out what you just said and try to do that now, it would take at least a person working directly with me on what I know and what they're learning through all the, math that they have to do. And it would take a long upstart to bring that person on and get them up to speed. And then once they have, the research that they've done, it's just a background research, almost like you're writing a thesis.
Right.
That's a lot of time. Then you have to think about, okay, I see all these connection points. how do I actually put these together into an idea of how we should move forward in this relationship? And now that I see there's a connection, and that's a whole other process.
So let me tell you, the really one line that I can describe what AI has changed the world.
Okay.
This one line, in my opinion, has never happened before. And it just is what AI is doing. This is the one line. Now it's possible to know everything. Now, what you just mentioned, let me just kind of like, what you just mentioned, you hire somebody, they go through this set of data, and they find these relationships. What are the problems that individual is really facing? One, the information is constantly changing. Tomorrow, there is a bunch new relationship that might be better than yesterday and better than last week.
Mm-hmm.
Two, you have different needs by the time they come back to you. Oh, yes. Now can you, we've all been there. Oh, now can you do this way? Mm-hmm. And that's a whole different set of things that needs to be done, right? What AI done for the humanity, which humanity couldn't do for itself, it's now possible to know everything.
Yeah,
it's up to us as humans to apply it.
Yes. That's the real mic drop.
Exactly. You got it.
That's the gold nugget right there.
You got
it. That's amazing. This is super exciting for me because I can see the vision for where this is going, and I'm totally bought in, because it goes to sort of my gut philosophy that the future is human augmented with AI. And so now it gets to the practical of how do we actually apply this sort of visionary approach. And I couldn't have built it up too much, because this first example that you're going to give about the engineer at the ball bearing manufacturer is just going to blow your mind.
Yeah, it's a sad story, but it's the one that has been like one of the centerpieces for me as I get engaged with customers and understand them better and what their needs are. There's a ball bearing company. As a ball bearing company, you might know that is used in many different type of machinery, engines, from airplanes all the way to food processing. They have 20,000 part IDs. And depending on the type of use and the degree and the portfolio of the engines that are going to be used, you have different needs. And it gets very complex, as you can imagine. Mm-hmm. Well, a field engineer expert working there for 13 years, unfortunately got pancreatic cancer and very quickly passed away. That created a vacuum for the sales team, for the field engineers, understanding of how everything got applied. He was the one to go to. He was the individual to kind of like the oracle of the company, right? The company was reaching out. They reached out to us and said, can you do something? We assigned our engineering team. We were very intrigued because obviously this is an interesting problem. We ended up actually taking years of the inbox conversation, read it into the brain, connected it to the technical part information of 20,000 part ID, had conversations about how this is used, pushed that proposals that we've had, failure or successful, into the brain by reading it.
That he created.
That he created and others created.
Yeah.
And long story short, we were amazed with what the AI assistant, in this case, created. You could literally go and ask the question, I'm trying to have a ball bearing. It's going to be running for 23 hours in a day. It has to be very reliable. It's going to be in a food processing machine. So it has to be food safe. And it's going to be running at a very high temperature during this period of time. It comes back and says, here's 3 ball bearings that I would propose. Here are the pros. Here are the cons. Here are the obstacles you could be running into in terms of size. And here is what I would suggest to state as value props. Here is the pricing. Here is the obstacles you could be running to, because I have read the proposals and this is how it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And it was really giving out very sophisticated, detailed answers in a human kind of readable mm-hmm. format that the rest of the field engineers could pick up and run. Amazingly, the CEO was so excited in that case that he decided the individual, the field engineer, the team member who passed away, his name was JR. And he asked us to call this assistant Ask JR. Because in his memory, because we kind of learned all the stuff that we could learn from his conversations, his proposals, we have named that now Ask JR in this ball bearing. You can look at the success story on our website. This kind of details the challenges, what we had to overcome with. But you can imagine the field engineers saving 20, 30% of their time and then retaining that knowledge that can boost the company's performance going forward.
It's amazing. That's such an amazing story. I haven't heard a story like that in a long time from, a business setting. And I think it's so powerful. You take a void or a vacuum that was created that they were not in front of, because they weren't expecting him to pass away, and it's gone. And now you have a gap that it potentially could do a lot of harm to your business. And this simple solution, complicated, simple, made it not only fill the void, but it propelled them forward into a completely new age of how they're operating their business.
You got it. Really, it's by true meaning, it's resources as a service. AI mm-hmm. has created. So what I envision in future is that you're going to have a lot of resources. Where in the past, the human resources would hire mm-hmm. humans that with mm-hmm. the knowledge they would come in, and each one of us who came to a team, we have our own impact. Mm-hmm. Now imagine you have Isaac Newton sitting next to you and you're a physicist, or you imagine mm-hmm. Einstein sitting next to you mm-hmm. and you're a physicist. How mm-hmm. much more productive you are now.
Yes.
Because for that time, these individuals knew everything.
Yes.
Right? Not knew everything in future, but knew everything that was there in the past. Now it's possible to say, I can take this to the next level. As a human being, I know everything because these two, Isaac Newton and, Albert Einstein, is sitting next to me, where I can take this now.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. And it's game changing on so many levels. It makes you resourced in a way that it changes how you have to think. The thinking is very, 2.0, I guess, for humans. And now it's 3.0 thinking, where we have the knowledge to tap into, and we can see this as consumers and users of ChatGPT. We can tap into this knowledge. So the way that we are approaching our same situations, the thinking is changed, because it's like using a calculator. Is the way I look at it. It's like, sure. You type into a calculator, your mode is so different. You're not thinking about the math. You're thinking about what the outcome is from how you're using the calculator.
You got it.
And that's
that metaphor also. I've used that metaphor where when first it came out, I remember kind of first reaction is don't use it. You're gonna forget your math, right?
Yes.
Your math, right? It was completely the opposite. To a point that in the exam, you would say, bring your calculator. Are you crazy? You have to bring your calculator because now you're operating in that 3.0 version of your brain, right?
Yeah.
Now, one thing I like to be able to tell the audience is really up to the leadership to embrace augmented intelligence. That's what I call AI, augmented intelligence. And it's up to the leadership to get trained so they can lead and make available to their teams and for the teams to ask for a brain to be a Albert Einstein and Isaac Newton to be plugged into their team so they can move in faster. If it is not the way that this is done, then it's really questionable whether it's going to have an impact in that organization.
Yes.
So it's up to the leadership to actually take that and get trained, get understanding. Don't be that professor who says, don't bring the calculator.
No, that's right. Yeah, because you're going to get stuck and you'll be stuck.
Yeah.
And I think, to add to that, leaders need to recognize that this is going to be a shift, and their organization made up of people and ideas is going to change. And if you become a leader that adopts the calculator, then you're going to be in front of that change, and you can mitigate the potential disaster that could come by not being in front of it. And you put your organization in a position to grow exponentially in various ways. And when I say it's going to change, I mean by the people too. The people and the positions and the roles, responsibilities, and all of that's going to shift and change naturally and become a new organization that potentially could even do something new. I was just talking with someone on the last episode about the spike of use of ChatGPT over Google. And it's like, well, what's going to happen to Google? And it's like, well, this is just normal evolution of technologies. It's just that we've had Google for so long, we're all kind of bought into it. And now that we're using ChatGPT more, Google has to change. It will change. It'll become something different. And its inherent value of whatever that value is, whether it's a repository of the world's content and it's searchable by ChatGPT, or it's not, and ChatGPT becomes everything, what has to play out, it will play out. And so it's the natural evolution of all things. And that's what's happening right now. And I think that that what you're saying is this sort of idea of organizational AI is the answer. It is the real AI application of AI inside of at least mid-tier B2B companies. I'm sure other companies, right? But it makes total sense there. But leaders need to get on board, and they need to hear this and have these discovery conversations about this topic so that they can get their mind around that new calculator and start using it, because that calculator is going to keep changing.
Yeah, it keeps changing. Also, it's applied into different areas. So I'll give you examples of different organizational AIs that we're using, because this brain, recruiters can tap into it. You got the customer success team that needs to tap into it. You have the sales team, the marketing team, the operating team. Now, interestingly, one of our private equity firms hooked up Tableau to the brain. And one of the interesting usages, and I kind of dropped this in so for your audience to think about, is that they could pull in Tableau data into a room. What the concept of knowledge room is within the knowledge space. So
sure.
just to imagine that a little bit. And in a knowledge room, people discuss that financial data from Tableau, but it stays in the room. Now you can ask the room 6 months later, what was discussed about that company's finances? Now you have a container, just like a huge building. Now you have rooms that you can invite people in, have conversations, and keep it private in the room so it doesn't get out. Great for acquisition. Great for marketing. Great for, it's not spread around the internet. It's not spread around the corporate brain. It's inside the room, and you can always tap into it. Now, depending on your level of access within the brain, you have all the rooms available to you, or you have, parts of the brain available to you. So that's also another concept. We talked about a few concepts here that is important for knowledge retention, to have that level of capabilities. This is really the next corporate Facebook, so to speak. Have conversations, have it in the room, have it in AI enabled, have them now be used in different organizations for different purposes.
Yeah, this is great. What I want to do is I want to have you back in like a year and talk about some up-to-date examples of clients you've been working with and solutions you've been providing to problems. Because I want to see kind of in sort of semi-real time how this matriculates. I want to see how this gets on, because it's super fascinating. And I think there's so many ways to deploy this in a company. It's amazing.
I would tell you, even 6 months from now, I don't know what's going to be. Like, if I look back 6 months ago and what we were doing 6 months ago to this date, 6 months from now or a year from now, I don't think my brain can still kind of get that far, but I'd be really interested too.
What's really cool about what you're doing with your company and your clients is it's almost like a meta, discussion to what we're talking about, is that you're actually getting to see the use cases of this as you go from one client to another. So you have this sort of palette of colors that you're building as you go through. And it's that alone is like another layer of knowledge and expertise that is fascinating.
We have multiple brains now running, and each one of them is teaching us something. That's exactly how I look at it. And these brains belong to the customer. We are SOC 2 compliant, phase 2 compliant. We have high security around each brain, but we are capable of gaining that experience of how the different usages of the brain can be effective in the different industries.
It's amazing. Okay, so people are going to want to call you or get in touch with you, because after they hear this episode, they're going to say, okay, we definitely need to talk. So how can they get in touch with you?
So best way is send me an email, Mehdi Tehranchi at KnowledgeNet.ai. I will bring in the right team of people, the right set of questions and answers, and kind of get that in the right area. I think the first thing to do is to go to our resources on our KnowledgeNet.ai and take a look at case studies, take a look at success stories, videos. We have a whole training section that allows you to see it at work. So get yourself familiar. That's is cool. A free download with 1,000 credits. Get it and start using it.
Amazing. This is awesome. Thanks, Mehdi.
Thank you so much, Lee. This has been great.